Parama karuna bahudui jana nitai Gaura Chandra. Parama karuna bahudui jana nitai Gaura Chandra. Parama karuna bahudui jana nitai Gaura Chandra. Sabhayavatara Sarashiromani Kevalaya Nandakanda. Sabhayavatara Sarashiromani Kevalaya Bhajo bhajo bhai Chaitanya Nitai Sudridha Vishwasa Khori. Bhajo bhajo bhai Chaitanya Nitai Sudridha Vishwasa Khori. Vishaya chadiya sera se magiya mukhe bolo hari hari. Vishaya chadiya sera se magiya mukhe bolo hari hari. देखो रे भाई त्रिभुवने নাই হে মোনা দয়ালধা। দেখো রে ভাই ত্রিভুবনে নাই হে মোনা দয়ালদাতা। পশু পাখি জুড়ে পাষাণ বিধারে শুনি ঝামরা গুণাগাতা। পশু পাখি জুড়ে পাষাণ বিধারে শুনি ঝামরা গুণাগাতা। সংসারে মাঝিয়া রহিলি পড়িয়া সে পাদে নাহিল আশা। রহিলি পড়িয়া সে পাদে নাহিল আশা। আপনা খরামা মুঞ্জয়ে সমানা খয়েলো চনদাস। আপনা খরামা মুঞ্জয়ে সমানা খয়েলো চনদাস। Parama karuna bahudui jana nitai Gaura Chandra. Parama karuna bahudui jana nitai Gaura Chandra. Sabhay avatar Sarashiromani Vandaya Nandakanda Sabayavatara Sarashiromani Kevalananda Paramakaruna Ahuduijana Paramakaruna Ahuduijana Nitai Gaurachandra. This is a song by Lochan Das Thakur. And the translation is: the two lords, Nitai Gaura Chandra, are very merciful. They are the essence of all incarnations. The specific significance of these incarnations is that they introduced a process of chanting and dancing that is simply joyful. My dear brother, I request that you just worship Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda with firm conviction and faith. If one wants to be Krishna conscious by this process, one has to give up his engagement in sense gratification. One simply has to chant Hare Krishna, Hari Hari without any motive. My dear brother, just try to examine this. Within the three worlds, there is no one like Lord Chaitanya or Lord Nityananda. Their merciful qualities are so great that upon hearing them, even birds and beasts cry and stones melt. But Lochan Das regrets that I am entrapped by sense gratification, since I have no attraction for the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. Then Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, is punishing me by not allowing me to be attracted by this movement. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
We're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, the desired tree of devotional service, text 36. Ateva ami agya dilun savakare Jahan tahan prema phala dekhayare tare Ateva ami agya dilun savakare Yahan tahan prema phala deha yare tare Ateva mi agya dilun savakare Yahan tahan prema phala deha yare tare
Atayami Dilo sabakare.
Ateva Agya Dilo Sabakare.
Yataha prema phala deha yaratare.
Yataha prema phala deha yaratare.
Ataiva mi avya dilun sahakare.
Ateva Agya Dilo Sabakare.
Yaham prema pala deha yaritare.
Yataha prema phala deha yaratare. Vaishnavis. Ateva Agya Dilo Sabakare. Yataha prema phala deha yaratare. Ateva Ami Agya Dilo Sabakare. Yataha prema phala deha yaratare. Ateva Ami Agya Dilo Sabakare. Yataha prema phala deha yaratare. Ateva. Therefore, Ami, I, Agya, order, Dilun, give, Sabakare, to everyone, Yahan, wherever, Tahan, everywhere, Premapala, the fruit of love of Godhead, Deha, distribute, Yare, anyone, Tare, everyone. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Therefore, I order every man within this universe to accept this Krishna consciousness movement and distribute it everywhere. Purport. In this connection, there is a song sung by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Enichi aushadi maya nashi bharalaki harinama mahamantra laotumi magi bhakti vinoda prabhu charane podiya sei harinama mantra laila magiya. The Sankirtana movement has been introduced by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just to dispel the illusion of Maya, by which everyone in this material world thinks himself to be a product of matter, and therefore to have many duties pertaining to the body. Actually, the living entity is not his material body. He is a spirit soul. He has a spiritual need to be eternally blissful and full of knowledge, but unfortunately, he identifies himself with the body, sometimes as a human being, sometimes as an animal, sometimes as a tree, sometimes an aquatic, sometimes a demigod, and so on. Thus, with each change of body, he develops a different type of consciousness with different types of activities, and thus becomes increasingly entangled in material existence, transmigrating perpetually from one body to another. Under the spell of Maya or illusion, he does not consider the past or future, but is simply satisfied with the short lifespan that he has gotten for the present. To eradicate this illusion, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has brought the Sankirtana movement, and he requests everyone to accept and distribute it. A person who is actually a follower of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur must immediately accept the request of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by offering respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet, and thus beg from him the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If one is fortunate enough to beg from the Lord this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, his life is successful. Ateva ami agyadilum sabakare yahan tahan prema phala deha yaretare. Therefore, I offer every man within this universe to accept this Krishna consciousness movement and distribute it everywhere. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyanjana Shalakya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwar Vrishabhani Sutti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpadurubhyascha Kripa Sindhudeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I beg for the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas to bless me so that I can speak something about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his merciful appearance in this world to save us. So this chapter of Adiliva is called the Desire Tree of Devotional Service, and it is a description of, Prabhupada calls it a poetic metaphor, symbolic representation of Lord Chaitanya's mission, Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. And it's a short chapter of 50-some verses. And after the author described the position of Lord Chaitanya, also of Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, and then Panchatattva, he, in the 8th chapter, described how he received the order to write this book. And in the following chapters, beginning with the 9th, he described this Chaitanya tree. So the next 10th chapter, we hear about the main branch, the trunk of the tree, which is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then the main trunks, or the main branches, the Advaita, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, and Gadadhar are the following 10, 11, and 12 chapters. And they are descriptions of the most prominent devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in this chapter, it's very important because Srila Prabhupada says Lord Chaitanya speaks to all of his followers. And we read this verse that he says, "Therefore I order everyone." And in the previous verses, actually, he says that he addresses all the branches and twigs of the tree, which are the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Srila Prabhupada says in one short purport in the previous verse that this, our International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is one of the branches of the Chaitanya tree. And this Chaitanya tree is described here in this chapter as alaukika, something transcendental, uncommon, not a tree from this world. Because it is Mahaprabhu himself, he is the tree, and also, now here, he describes himself as the gardener of the tree, Malakara, and also the one who distributes the fruits of this tree, which is Krishna Prema. So, as we heard yesterday from Srila Prabhupada's class, he said there is a special significance of the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is very nicely captured by Rupa Goswami in his famous prayer, Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. He addresses the Lord when he saw him. O my most merciful municipal Lord, Mahavadanyaya, you came here in the mood of Srimati Radharani, Namne Gaura Tishe Namaha, with this golden, wonderful and beautiful form, to distribute that which is most precious, Krishna Prema. So this is special significance. Lord Chaitanya is not just Yuga Avatara, a regular appearance of the Supreme Lord, but he is Swayam Bhagavan. He is the Lord Krishna himself, the fountainhead of all avatars. And he came to as a combined form of Radha and Krishna to bring the most precious, exalted rasa of love of God, Ujjvala, Ujjvala rasa. And this we'll read in the next verse, which I wanted to read also with the purport. So Mahaprabhu continues. So I order everyone to accept this movement and distribute the fruit, prema pala, to everyone, everywhere. Because, he says, ekala mala kara ami kata pala kaba nadia va e pala ara kikoriba. I'm the only gardener. And if I do not distribute these fruits, what shall I do with them? How many fruits can I alone eat? And Srila Prabhupada says, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu produced so many fruits of devotional service that they must be distributed all over the world. Otherwise, how could he alone relish and taste each and every fruit? The original reason that Lord Shri Krishna descended as Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to understand Srimati Radharani's love for Krishna and to taste that love. So in these previous chapters, as I explained before, fifth, when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explained Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva, he also explained in the fourth chapter what are the reasons, and in the third. The third is the external reasons, and fourth, the confidential reasons, the internal reasons. So there are different reasons why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and the external reasons is to distribute the Hare Krishna mantra and to answer the call of Advaita Acharya, and the internal confidential reasons is to take the position of Srimati Radharani, to taste her love and to taste the sweetness of Krishna. And in these verses we see that there is a connection between these two. They are not separate, these reasons. Tasting the love of God and distributing, we see here, Lord Chaitanya says, I'm the gardener and I have so many fruits, but what can I eat alone? I have to distribute them and I need assistance for that. So Prabhupada continues, the fruits of the tree of devotional service were innumerable, and therefore he wanted to distribute them unrestrictedly to everyone. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore writes, and this is a verse which appears many times in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is a fourth verse. As we know, these are the seed verses in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and then the author explains them. So this is the fourth verse, also a glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by Rupa Goswami. And it appears in his wonderful drama, Vidagdha Madhava, as the second verse, which glorifies the Ishtadeva. So it is Anarpita Charim Chirat Karunayavatirna Khalo Samarpayitu Munato Jwalar Samsa Bhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dudikadamba Sandipita Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuratu Vashachi Nandana. There were many previous incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but none was so generous, kind, and magnanimous as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. For he distributed the most confidential aspect of devotional service, namely the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna. Therefore, Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada desires that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu live perpetually in the hearts of all devotees, for thus they can understand and relish the loving affairs of Srimati Radharani and Krishna. Sada Hridaya Kandare Spuratu Va Shachinandana. He is praying for us, Rupa Goswami says, let always Sadahridaya Kandra, in the core of your hearts, Spuratu, be manifest the son of Shachi. So if you remember, this verse was also discussed in Antya-lila, when there is a description how Lord Chaitanya visited Rupa Goswami in Jagannath Puri, who was at that time staying with Haridas Thakur. So Lord Chaitanya was going every day, and one day he found a verse which was from Vidagdha Madhava, and it was spoken by Purnima, description of the holy name, the glories of the holy name. And it was so wonderful. This is the verse where Rupa Goswami describes it as such a sweet syllables, Krishna, that I desire to have millions of ears to hear them and millions of tongues to chant. So Lord Chaitanya was very happy, and he showed that verse to other devotees. Look at this wonderful poetry, and then they started discussing. So what are you writing? And Rupa Goswami explained that he was writing a drama, and they wanted to hear the first verse, introductory verse. He recited it, and then they said, okay, let's hear the second verse, which is the address to the worshipable deity. And Rupa Goswami was shy, so he just lowered his head, and he didn't want to say it. And Mahaprabhu was, please say it, but why you don't want to say it? So then he recited this verse, Anarpita Charin Chirat, which is a direct glorification of Mahaprabhu, who was there. And he knew that Mahaprabhu doesn't like to be glorified, because like previously, also in Puri, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya wrote 2 verses in a palm leaf, and he sent them with a long quantity of Mahaprasad, Jagannath Mahaprasad, to Lord Chaitanya and the devotees. And he sent it through Jagannananda Pandit and Mukunda Datta. So they were carrying the Mahaprasad and this palm leaf of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And Mukunda Datta took the verse from the palm leaf from Jagadananda, and before they delivered it to Mahaprabhu, he copied the verses in the wall on the room outside. So then they gave it, and Mahaprabhu looked at the verses and immediately tore the palm leaf. So this is another famous verse from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga, again glorifying Mahaprabhu, who came to teach his own devotion, own love of God, Bhakti Yoga, Nija Bhakti Yoga. And also he gave the standard of real renunciation of everything which is not connected to Krishna, and real knowledge of our relationship with Krishna. So devotees knew that Mahaprabhu didn't like this, but they, of course, they learned these verses and kept them in their hearts. So anyway, by the request of the devotees, Rupa Goswami recited it, and what did Mahaprabhu do when he heard that verse? Anarpita Charin Chirat. Anyone remember? He said something about the verse. He said, this is atistuti. It's exaggerated poetry. Exaggerated poetry. And later they discussed more of different verses from the drama, and then the second part of the drama came, which is Lalita Madhava, and again the introductory verse, and the third verse, actually again glorification of the worshipable deity. So then, okay, recite it, and Rupa Goswami didn't want to recite, and Mahaprabhu, you have to recite it. And then he again, another verse of glorification of Mahaprabhu, also in Prithvi meter, same meter, very beautiful verse. Again, glorifying Lord Chaitanya. And this time Mahaprabhu didn't say just atistuti, he said mithya stuti. It's a false glorification. You have written such a wonderful description of Lord Krishna's pastimes, which is like an ocean of nectar. And this verse is like a drop of alkali, which I guess is something very distasteful, or alkali is something which burns actually. So, but Ramananda Rai objected, and he said, no, this verse is not like alkali. it is like a drop of camphor in the ocean of nectar. And Mahaprabhu said, no, no, no. What will people say? They will just laugh when they hear the subject matter of this verse. And Ramananda Rai said, no, they will not laugh. They will appreciate so much this verse. So this was a loving exchange. So this is an important verse which Rupa Goswami composed, and it's one of the key verses, which says, Charim Chirat, means for a long time, this Anarpita, it was not given. What is not given? Samarpitum Unata Ujvala. Ujvala means the splendid rasa of special of Srimati Radharani in Madhurya rasa, which is the most exalted, Unata Ujvala rasa, Swabhaktim Shriyam. So Mahaprabhu came in Kali Yuga, Karunaya Tirna Kalau, out of his kindness, and he took this wonderful, beautiful form, which is of splendid gold, Purata Sundara Dutika Damba Sandipita. And he prays that he appears in our hearts. So, this 9th chapter, why it is so significant for us? Because, yes, you hear of these metaphors of this wonderful tree and its fruits of love of God, and Lord Chaitanya distributed them freely. Like a couple of verses before, it said that Lord Chaitanya, as a gardener, he didn't consider whether someone is qualified and deserves it or not, or he's asking or not. Mahaprabhu just gave it. So we may wonder, okay, how is that work? What does it mean that this fruit is given freely, and we're here, we seem to want to taste it, and do we actually taste it? Do we enjoy this transcendental fruit? So, yes, what does it mean that it's distributed for free without any price? That was also mentioned a couple of verses before. He didn't ask for any price for it. No consideration for the qualification or the desire. There's no price for it. Mahaprabhu gave it freely. What does it mean for us practically? And Srila Prabhupada, it's a really important chapter, because in all the purpose he always stresses again and again what it means for us to accept this wonderful fruit. It means that we try to assist Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his mission. Then we will experience it. Although we may not be so fortunate, like in this wonderful song of Lochan Das Thakur at the end, he says, after describing how wonderfully merciful are Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, Prabhupada was very fond of this song, Parama Karuna Paho Dui Jana. He again and again quoted it by saying, they're so kind, Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, they gave a path, Kanda Kevala Ananda, which is just simply joyful. And we heard that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he composed the verse glorifying that Mahaprabhu established the real vairagya, detachment. And Prabhupada said, this only detachment Mahaprabhu wants us is to just simply chant, dance, and take Krishna Prasad. And it's even that seems difficult for us. This is the only vairagya. We're not required the standard vairagya which is set by the Vedic scriptures for everyone in human society, especially those who aspire for the higher goals, not just dharma, artha, and kama, but who wants to attain liberation from samsara. They have to give up. This is prescribed for every human being. They have to give up at the end of the life, everything basically. And if we read what's prescribed from the stage of vanaprastha on, it seems impossible actually to follow. For example, every everyone who and it is compulsory, and Prabhupada quotes that after 50 years, men should leave home. And what they should do, the description in Dharma Shastras, live alone and eat, what to eat? Fruits, whatever is found in the forest, and some roots. And then in the summer you have to sit under the sun, under 50 degrees sometimes. And even more, that's not enough, you have to burn 6 fires around. And in the winter, you have to wear wet clothes. I was just in Haridwar for a short time, and I have put all the clothes I had, and I was just freezing. And it's not winter actually, so already started the spring. But it was so cold. And I just thought, if I have all the warm clothes and I'm still freezing, what to speak of putting on wet clothes during the winter, which is really cold there. So it's impossible actually to follow. And Mahaprabhu didn't ask us to follow any of these prescriptions. He didn't even ask anyone to leave home. And he had devotees, many devotees who were old, much older than 50 for sure, like Dvaitacharya, Srivas and others. We don't hear of any description where Mahaprabhu asked anyone to leave home, right? And go in the forest. Even for his sannyasis, we hear that one of his very dear, close associates, when he came to Puri, he wore the traditional deer skin as a sign for a sannyasi. Mahaprabhu didn't like it. So, yes, he just encouraged everyone to chant. We read that in Chaitanya Bhagavat in a number of places, how Mahaprabhu advised all his followers to stay home, gather in groups, clap their hands, and sing the names of Krishna. This is the only request we hear from Mahaprabhu as austerity, but also, so that's the way to taste that love, that prema which he came to give, that fruit. But also he wanted for us to taste it and share it. In other words, to become gardeners ourselves. Like outside on the table there is a nice, become a gardener, be a gardener. And this is in Madhya Lila we hear. We receive the seed of this tree, which gives the fruit of love of God. But we have to take responsibility for growing it. And Mahaprabhu also, in another metaphor, compares that devotional service as a creeper which we need to carefully grow and guard from different dangerous animals like the mad elephant or the blasphemy against devotees. And also the upa shaka, the weeds which grow along with watering the tree. And there are many, he says, many unlimited weeds which grow. So we have to be careful, and he lists 6 main ones. And so we have to be gardeners ourselves, to cultivate carefully this creeper of devotion, and to taste it, to taste the fruit, and to share it, to distribute it. So in this chapter, this is the main theme, and Srila Prabhupada again and again repeats that this is the actual devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's their duty, to taste and share this fruit, to distribute it to others. And this is the way that we receive Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. And in this chapter later is described how Mahaprabhu, while giving the fruits to others and seeing how they eat it and become intoxicated, and they start to chant and dance and roll on the ground, and Mahaprabhu smiles. And Prabhupada explains, this is what we should do. We should taste the fruits which Mahaprabhu came to give us, and we should distribute them to others. And then, and he specifically says, if we just follow the simple advice of Mahaprabhu, and we arrange programs where there is a hearing about Krishna, chanting of his names, and distributing prasadam. Mahaprabhu certainly is present during such occasions, and he is looking very happy and with a smile will bless the devotees to attain his lotus feet. And Srila Prabhupada made it really, really simple for us, and he was the personification of this mercy of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda, by really showing what means to give this mercy to everyone. And Prabhupada says in a purport to a previous verse, this is the sum and substance of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. There is no distinction made between those who are fit and those who are not fit to hear or take part in the Sankirtan movement. It should therefore be preached without discrimination. The only purpose of the preachers of the Sankirtan movement must be to go on preaching without restriction. The followers of Lord Chaitanya must execute his will with heart and soul, being more tolerant than the trees and humbler than the straw in the street. We know Prabhupada was asked by one of his godbrothers once, while he was still Grihastha and he was working in his pharmacy. So once, jokingly, his godbrother went and asked him, like when you order a medicine, he said, I want a special medicine, can you make it for me? So usually at that time, pharmacists, you tell them something and then they make it for you. And he says, I want the medicine of love of God. Do we have the formula? Or first say, can you sell me this medicine? Prabhupada says, I know the formula. I can tell you the formula. So he said the formula is Trinadapi Sunichana Tarorapi Sahishana Manina Manadina Kirtanya Sadahi. To always chant the glories of the holy name and the glories of Krishna in this mood, without expecting any respect, and always showing respect to others, and being more tolerant than a tree and more humbler than grass. And Srila Prabhupada explains that by developing these qualities, we attract the attention of Lord Chaitanya, and he will shower his blessing. And this is not only artificial or external, that we just repeat some philosophy or some nice and sentimental description, but it's something very practical, which is applied. And Srila Prabhupada, again, in one of the purports in this chapter, he quotes another verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, again spoken by Mahaprabhu, Apani Achari Bhakti Karila Prachar. One must first act himself and then teach. This is the function of a real teacher. Unless one is able to understand the philosophy that he speaks, it will not be effective. Therefore, one should not only understand the philosophy of the Chaitanya cult, but also implement it practically in one's life. Which means that we have to embody these qualities of a real devotee. We have to strive for that. We may not imitate the great devotees, but at least we have to follow them and try to become like them. And especially, Prabhupada, again, in one of these purposes, if one has to be sincere and serious in taking up this process of the Sankirtan movement, and then will receive the mercy of Mahaprabhu. So that sincerity requires straightforwardness in our heart, to be honest with ourselves and with others, not to be duplicitous. Otherwise, we'll cheat ourselves, maybe others, for some time. But we have to be honest where we are, on which level, and strive to advance by humbly taking this mission of Mahaprabhu. And not posed as someone who we are not. And especially to not make willful and conscious transgress the order of Mahaprabhu and the principles which were given. Because, as we hear, Mahaprabhu is very, very generous and very kind, and he is open to give it to anyone. But we see he is also very strict, and he doesn't discriminate. Like he gave chance to the most degraded persons at that time, the example of Jagai and Madai. But then he demanded that they have to never again make a mistake, never again fall to their previous activities. And Prabhupada explained in one lecture I heard yesterday that we may again make a mistake unwillingly or unknowingly, said, but if we knowingly make mistakes and break the principles and the order of Mahaprabhu, then he says, then we'll get a severe reaction. And we'll miss the mercy, we'll miss this most precious gift we're given. So it's our responsibility to accept this great gift and to cultivate it and to guard it and to not spoil it by consciously making and violating and breaking the orders of Mahaprabhu and Acharyas. So it is very important. It's not that we'll be lost completely, because still we'll have a chance, but we may get a lot of delay in the process. So we see Mahaprabhu, he showed mercy in different ways, and we may remember different examples. For example, how he showed his mercy, and I mentioned the example of Jagai and Madai. What any other examples anyone can remember how Mahaprabhu showed his mercy?
Keshava Kashmir.
Yes, okay. Keshava Kashmiri was a very, you could say, yes, he was very qualified and very learned, but he was very proud. So that was his qualification. Still Mahaprabhu very gently, actually, diminished his pride. And even though he defeated him right from their first meeting, very soundly defeated him, and his students started laughing, Mahaprabhu stopped them. And he said, no, don't laugh. So he gave his mercy like that by teaching him and accepting him and showing him actually his actual form. So this is a good example of someone who was very learned and qualified in one sense. Mahaprabhu gave his mercy. Other examples? Yeah.
Just simply that he had taken the sannyas for benefit of this Mayavadi. Because he didn't need to take sannyas, right? But he had taken the sannyas for benefit of the Mayavadi, they pay obeisances to him. And because he is Supreme Personality of Godhead, they pay obeisances to Krishna.
Okay, so he took sannyas, and this is an example of how he showed mercy, especially for those who are criticizing him. It wasn't because of the sannyasis, this was the students who were criticizing, and they were proud brahmanas. And later on, of course, he showed mercy to Mayavadi sannyasis, like Prakashananda, Saraswati, and others. But yes, he took sannyas at early age, leaving a young wife and old mother for the sake of all humanity. And in this chapter later on, in the verses, there are quotes from Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami from 10th canto, which is spoken by Krishna, where he glorifies the tree, how the trees they serve without expecting anything. And again, Prabhupada in the purport says this is the real mood of the followers of Mahaprabhu. They just want to give. and don't expect anything for themselves. Any other examples? Okay, again, a very great scholar, and he received the mercy of Mahaprabhu through, again, personal association and personal exchange with Mahaprabhu, who heard him patiently for 7 days. And that place is still there in Puri. You can go and visit that house, Saurabhama Bhattacharya. It's still maintained. There are wonderful deities established by one great Vaishnavi, Gangamata Goswamini, on the order of her guru, who was Haridas, was the one who also confirmed the order, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, to write Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, any other examples?
Brother-in-law of Advaita Acharya, I think was the brother who was criticizing Lord Chaitanya while he was taking Kushanam there. Amogaya.
That's Saurabhama Bhattacharya, yes. Yeah, okay, so...
So he got the leprosy because of his offenses to Lord Chaitanya, and then later Lord Chaitanya gave him actually his mercy.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Advaita Acharya was running behind him with a stick or something.
Saurabhama Bhattacharya.
Sorry.
Amoga.
Huh?
Okay, something else? Yeah? The dog. Okay, but whose dog? It's not an ordinary dog. Yeah, Shivananda Sena's dog. This is also a wonderful story. It's a very illustrative of how we actually receive the mercy of Mahaprabhu. Always through someone, through the medium of devotees. And otherwise, how we'll approach Mahaprabhu? So this dog somehow followed the group and was taking prasad, and Shivananda Sena took him as part of the devotees who are traveling. So he ordered that the dog is fed regularly, like a member of the whole party. And one day he was busy with some organizational matters. And when he came late and he asked about the dog, he was checking every day, is the dog fed? And then the servant forgot. He said, oh, I forgot. And where's the dog? Oh, the dog was missing. So he sent a few men to look around, and they look everywhere, but the dog wasn't there. So Shivananda Sen was very unhappy about that. So what happened, this was already, they were close to Puri. The dog somehow continued and went to Puri. So when they arrived, they were surprised to see the next day Mahaprabhu sitting and feeding with a malai, with a pulp of a coconut, which was thrown to the dog. And the dog was happily eating this Mahaprasad, and then it says in Chaitanya Charitamrita, then the dog next day didn't come and went back to Godhead. So yes, Mahaprabhu showed his mercy to all living entities. Other? Mukunda, who was going to listen to different talks, including talks of impersonalists. And Mahaprabhu didn't like it at all, and he said, I don't want to see any more Mukunda. He is coming to us, and he seems to be part of us, but then he goes to others and listens about jnana and impersonal philosophy. I don't want to see. So devotees ask Mahaprabhu, please don't reject him. And then Mahaprabhu said, no, I don't want to see him anymore. So they told Mukunda he was very, very sorry. And he said, could you ask him if there will be any chance, any time to see him again? So the devotees, again, through the medium of devotees, we can get the mercy. So they ask Mahaprabhu, is there a chance one day? And then Mahaprabhu said, after how many millions of years? After 10 millions of years, I will see him. Koti. Koti usually means 10 million. So when Mukunda heard that, he was so jubilant and started jumping and screaming. And Mahaprabhu saw that and he said, why is he so jubilant and said, well, he heard that you will see him after some time, at least it's fixed, long time, but you will see him, Mahaprabhu. So, okay, come here, bring him in. But yes, he rejected, we know, a few times. This was just an example, temporary, but with some cases he didn't accept again. Anyone remember Chota Haridas? Yeah, this is a very close associate. He wasn't just someone somewhere. He was one of the very close associates. If you go in Puri, and there is a quarter there, and there is the house of Jagannananda, where Mahaprabhu visited him regularly. It's close to the Jagannath temple, where Jagannananda brought that pot of sandalwood oil. And then next to it is Swarup Damodaras, and Chota Haridas is also there, his place. So he was very dear, close associate of Mahaprabhu. Rejected him because of his seeing. And it's described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. He just begged from Madhavi, an elderly lady. But Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami explains that he actually went in a particular time to beg so that he can see her younger niece. So he just wanted to see, he had some attraction to see. And just for that, Mahaprabhu was so uncompromisingly strict that those who, and he wasn't even officially sannyas, but he was in the renounced order. So Mahaprabhu didn't like this hypocrisy. And he rejected him, and although devotees begged him to forgive, Mahaprabhu said no. And Chota Haridas himself, he waited for 1 year with a hope that he will be forgiven, but Mahaprabhu didn't. So this is another mercy, which is an example that Mahaprabhu is very strict and he doesn't accept hypocritical devotees. Another time he rejected another devotee also without compromise. Anyone remembers? There was a devotee who traveled with him in South India, Kala Krishna Das. So he unfortunately got attracted by the Badaharis, some kind of tribe, and they allured him through again a woman. Mahaprabhu saved him. They tried to attack, to bring back this Kala Krishna Das. Oh, he's now part of us, you cannot drag him. Mahaprabhu, it says he dragged him by the sika. And then actually they came with weapons. And they were throwing the weapons to Mahaprabhu. Suddenly the weapons turned against them and they started cutting them. So Mahaprabhu saved him, but they didn't say anything, so they traveled for a long time again together. But when they came back in Puri, Mahaprabhu said, I don't want to see him anymore. And then the devotees, please reconsider, he made mistake, and Mahaprabhu just turned his back and walked away. That seems like a very, very severe. But yes, Mahaprabhu is very strict also. And this is also mercy. But what happened with Kala Krishna Das? Do you remember? Again, by the mercy of devotees, they thought, okay, he will not be able now to serve personally Mahaprabhu, but we have to give him a chance. Because when Mahaprabhu walked away, Kala Krishna Das started crying, naturally. So devotees were very merciful, and with Nityananda, they devised a plan. They went to Mahaprabhu and said, we actually need to send someone to serve Shachi Mata and give her news about that you returned from South India. And do you mind, engaging Kala Krishna Das in this service? Mahaprabhu said, do whatever you like. So by the mercy of devotees, we can get chance, but we have to be very careful also that we don't misuse the opportunity we're given and make willingly mistakes. So I thought of reading some other verses in glorification, and then I'll end. What are we supposed to end now?
Shalom is at 7:30.
So we have enough time. Okay. So there is one wonderful verse by Prabodhananda Saraswati. It's from Chaitanya Chandramrita. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. If you have a chance, please read it or hear it. There's also audio recording. So in verse 82, Prabodhananda Saraswati says, Bhrata kirtaya nama gokulapate udhava nama avalim yadva bhavaya tasya divya madhuram rupam jagan mohanam hanta prema maharasojvalapade nashapite sambhave Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu yadi kripa drishtir patennatvai. Brother, go on and chant the mighty names of Gokula's Lord, or continue contemplating his beautiful body, so supernaturally sweet that it confounds the whole world. So this is advice, he says. My brother, please chant the names of Govinda, Krishna, the master of Gokula. Meditate on his sweet, beautiful form by which he enchants the whole world. But, he says, Hanta, alas, you will never even dream of reaching the rare, radiant rasa of pure love. If Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu never casts your compassionate glance. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu yadi kripa drishtir paten natvai. So if you don't get the mercy of Mahaprabhu, you may chant, you may meditate on Krishna, but you will never be able to taste that. Again, he says, this most splendid, greatest rasa of pure love of Krishna. And also, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains, Prabhupada very nicely in many purports says that without Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we cannot attain Krishna. Radha and Krishna, so we should worship Mahaprabhu, but also we should worship Radha and Krishna. We cannot worship Mahaprabhu separately and not worship Radha and Krishna, so they go together. And there is one verse also in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is from Swarup Damodar Goswami when he arrived in Puri and he offered obeisances to Mahaprabhu, and he explained in such a wonderful poetry the wonderful mercy of Mahaprabhu. He's just praying for the mercy. And he says, O ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let there be an awakening of your auspicious mercy, which easily drives away all kinds of material lamentation by making everything pure and blissful. So this is Mahaprabhu's mercy. It makes everything pure and blissful and removes all inauspiciousness. Indeed, your mercy awakens transcendental bliss and covers all material pleasures. By your auspicious mercy, quarrels and disagreements arising among different scriptures are vanquished. Your auspicious mercy pours forth transcendental mellows and thus causes the heart to jubilate. Your mercy, which is full of joy, always stimulates devotional service and glorifies conjugal love of God. May transcendental bliss be awakened within my heart by your causeless mercy. Okay. Thank you very much for your attention. Any comments, reflections? Yes, bro.
No, it doesn't matter. I have a silly question. Do I use the microphone? Yes. Hare Krishna. Jai. Thank you very much, Mahendra Prabhu.
She's not on.
Doesn't matter.
Of course.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your lecture. And one thought came to my mind while you were speaking is about the merciful movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It looks like everyone is welcome. It looks like very easy.
in the same time, as it goes, it looks like it's super difficult. So, at least for some of us. So, question to you is, what do you see? What are the main reasons why we stray away and somehow don't get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and have more taste in principal activities of Mahaprabhu's movement? Thank you.
We do get the mercy of Mahaprabhu and the evidence that we're here. We wouldn't be here if we have not received or are receiving the mercy of Mahaprabhu. But to taste that fruit, we need to earn, we have to be qualified. This is our responsibility. It's available, it's there, he's giving it. So what are the main reasons why we're not tasting it or receiving it? And it's described, as I mentioned, the main reasons are the obstacles which come along the path, and these are the weeds which suffocate the bhakti lata, and it cannot grow and produce that fruit so that we can taste it. And these weeds, they also grow by the process of while we practice devotional service. We water by hearing and chanting. But if we're not careful, and this is one of the main reasons that Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains, that in Harinam Chintamani, the offenses to the holy name, actually, they block the mercy to manifest so that we can actually taste pure love of Krishna by chanting the holy name. That's the way. That's the only way. There is no other way. But if we chant offensively or you commit offenses, then it doesn't manifest, or it takes a long time. So it seems very difficult. It is very easy to do it, to perform it. Therefore, I quoted Prabhupada. He says everyone can just simply chant and hear and dance and taste prasad. But to chant attentively with care and sincerely without offenses, that's the difficulty. Because of our bad qualities, our anarthas, and our carelessness. So the qualifications which Prabhupada mentioned here and many times, sincerity and seriousness. Sincerity means that we're not duplicitous, we're straightforward, we don't have ulterior motivation. Actually, I prepared this quote, I didn't read it. Let me find it. Yeah, I think I read it actually. But if one joins with ulterior purpose to get material benefit or personal gratification, will never be able to grasp the philosophy of this movement. So this is very clear. Prabhupada says, if you have ulterior purpose, and we usually have a mixed, we have mixed purposes. We have some pure desire, but also we have other ulterior motives, and then it will be very difficult to grasp what's actually about, and especially to taste it and experience it. So we have to pray and ask for mercy and for help and for strength, so that we can be able to develop that sincerity. And to be serious means to follow, actually, to apply it, what we heard, and apply it in a systematic way, and regularly, again and again, even if we slip again, we try and apply it, and then one day we'll experience it. Prabhupada says in one of the purports here in the chapter that he quotes Shikshashtakam, that Mahaprabhu was crying in separation, and Prabhupada says we shouldn't imitate this, but we should aspire to attain that goal. He says again, if one is following sincerely and chanting, that day will come when one will cry while chanting, and the voice will be choked, and one will experience this. But this comes through mercy when we are pure enough and when we deserve it. So we have to be careful. Yeah, this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says. Carelessness or inattention is the root cause of the other offenses. And when we are careless and we are not serious about being strict, especially in avoiding the offenses, then the holy name doesn't manifest, and we just are not advancing. If we commit serious offenses, not only that we're not advancing, we lose every progress we have made. So these are basically the main reasons: committing offenses, and also allowing the anarthas and these different types of weeds to grow and suffocate the. So, yeah, it may seem difficult to not make offenses because of our nature, but it's possible. It's possible. Just one needs to be careful and control a little bit the tongue and the mind, and even if when you make mistake, you correct it, you beg for forgiveness, like that. And yeah, others are very internal. For example, like Kutinati, one of the 6 major. It's again, I said that lack of sincerity, lack of honesty. Kutinati means different meanings, but one is literally means crooked intelligence. Again, means hypocrisy, showing something and being something different, and like that. So this is a very great stumbling block on the part of advancement, and also it means finding faults with others. That's Kutinati. And then you have Loba Puja Pratishta, also very subtle but very, very persistent anarthas. Desire to be someone, to be distinguished, Prabhupada translated name, fame, profit, adoration, and distinction. You want to be someone, to be recognized and respected, and to get something out of it, profit. So these are all different types of weeds. We need to be careful to take them out when they're small, because when they grow and they are, the bigger they are, the more difficult to uproot them. Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So, yeah, partially already answered, but the weeds, sometimes these weeds are also very sweet. And Krishna Prema is very sweet, but we have never, we didn't taste it yet, that sweetness. So we can be put on the, when Keshav Maharaj was here, he said something very striking for me. It's like when we talk about tasting Krishna consciousness on the level of ruchi, ask yourself the question that the moments that you felt you had taste, or something was really tasty in Krishna consciousness, what was the real cause of that taste? And it was really entering, because I realized that when I really felt like the most inspired, it was like when you lead a kirtan, everybody was happy, or the class was going well and everybody appreciated. And then you think, oh my God, actually has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, it's just I'm appreciated. So ruchi, I've never tasted ruchi because it was just my ego. So how do we know? Because it can be very discouraging in spiritual life that you think you're developing something, but actually we're watering the weeds. And then it seems like impossible to ever taste what is real Krishna consciousness. So I'm struggling a little bit with that.
But it's not always when you experience some happiness in devotional service necessarily connected with your ego. It might be, but as you said, the wheats are tasty. Well, they seem to be, but from the story of Sanatana Goswami, he actually says one of the wheats, as I explained, is recognition and being glorified. And he says that this is actually the most bitter one, the glorification. Well, we think it's sweet, because it's nice. But when Mahaprabhu glorified Sanatana Goswami and chastised Jagadananda Pandit for advising Sanatana, and Mahaprabhu said, "How can you do that? Who are you? You're just a boy." Because Sanatana was older, Mahaprabhu and Jagadananda were more or less same age, classmates. Mahaprabhu and Sanatana was about 20 years older. And Mahaprabhu said, "He's our guru, he's the teacher of everyone. How can you advise him what? Who are you, Jaga?" And then Sanatana Goswami said, "Oh, my Lord, you are giving me the poison, the bitterness of glorification. And you show your real love by the sweet chastisement to Jagadananda." And Mahaprabhu, hearing that, became somewhat ashamed, Prabhupada says, and said, no, I love you both, but I cannot tolerate the transgression of the Vaishnava etiquette. So, we like, of course, to be special and to be glorified, but this is not it's not real. This is not the taste we are looking for. But it doesn't mean that we don't experience any time. But usually that's not ruchi. I mean, if we examine the descriptions of the stages, we are very unlikely at the level of ruchi, because at the level of nishta we are already liberated. So who can say that? Just read the list of descriptions from Madhura Kadambini of Vishwanath Chakravarti to Gaura about anishtita bhakti. And then you'll see if I'm fallen in one of these or not. And then most probably you'll see, yes. I mean, just laya means kind of a sleep and laziness, and while practicing, especially while chanting, you never feel, you're always full of energy and fully focused, it's so regular to experience this laya, but while hearing or chanting. It means anishtita bhakti. And that means we're not at nishta. So it's very high level of ruchi. But we experience sometimes, and what Rupa Goswami explains, that's reflection of the real taste of bhava. And this reflection, again, to the question why we experience it, in Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami usually explains why we experience this reflection of bhava. It's just a reflection or a shadow, and there are differences between these. And he says, by combination, usually you're in the right place, in the right time, in the right association. So he says, when you are in the holy dham, in a special occasion, for example, a festival like Gaura Purnima, and then in assembly of great devotees, then you may feel something and start crying. Oh, Krishna. And that may not have anything to do with your ego. You may be just in the corner and just crying internally, maybe externally. It's not because others see, oh, he's crying. You just feel it, and this is the reflection by the circumstance, by the mercy of the holy dham, like Radha Desh, and and the deities. That is the form. Also in the presence of Krishna, and the deities, the devotees, the time, like a festival and a holy place, and due to this, one may experience something very unique, even if you're not on the level. And when you lose it, he says, you can even lose it if you are genuinely in bhava, when you make offense to devotees. A Vaishnava parat, and then the more grave the Vaishnava parat is, the more you fall. If it's less, if it's small aparada, then you just fall from real bhava to the shadow bhava. And if it's really grave, then you just go really down. So, I mean, the real taste, we just aspire to experience something, but actually I really wanted to eat something which I forgot somehow, but this is now the time I remember it. This is from Srila Prabhupada's diary, 1966. It's actually Gaura Purnima in 1966 was on 7th of March, same day. And on the 6th of March, Srila Prabhupada wrote, because usually Vaishnavas actually, they start celebrating the day before, and it's called Adivas, and there is even a special song, and there is something happening in the evening, and devotees are preparing for the festival. And Prabhupada says, just let me, here it is. It's actually, you can see the page of Prabhupada's handwriting from his diary. According to Mayapur Panjika, today is Adivas day of Gaura Purnima. Devotees at Vrindavan and Navadvip are enjoying the celebration. But I have come here to serve the Lord, and not for personal happiness. I am prepared to live in hell even, if I am able to serve the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted that his mission should be propagated all over the world, and that is my objective. I do not mind the inconvenience personally felt. So we're not so much into how we feel, do we feel real taste. Of course, we aspire, as I said, Prabhupada says this in the purport, this should be our aspiration and longing. But actually, the real example which Prabhupada gives here is like, I'm not concerned about my personal happiness. I just came here to serve the Lord. My objectives is Lord Chaitanya's mission. I do not mind any inconvenience. And this is a great inconvenience Prabhupada experienced. And we really can't imagine what it means for someone, a devotee, to be separated from devotees and to know what's happening during Gaura Purnima in Navadvip and in Vrindavan. It's such a great celebration and joy and among devotees. But Prabhupada was, 66, alone, but still no problem of personal inconvenience. This is my duty. I'm prepared to suffer even hellish inconveniences for the Lord's happiness, serving the mission. So if we develop this mood, or just a small particle of this mood, and we humbly and tolerantly try to serve the mission of Mahaprabhu to whatever our capacity is, and as I mentioned, Mahaprabhu didn't expect really much sacrifice from us, and this, when Prabhupada says everybody should preach and share, and Mahaprabhu says, I order everyone to distribute this, and later on in Madhya Lila he tells Kurma Brahmana and many others, it's mentioned, to whoever he met later on, he was telling the same instruction. Yaredeke Taraka, Krishna Upadesh, Amaragya Guru, you should all become teachers and share the instructions of Krishna. It's not, doesn't refer only to some preachers or those who are designated, it's just for everyone. Everyone can share in whatever capacity, small, big, whatever, but that's what we are supposed to do. To take it, practice it, apply it, and share it in some way or other with others. And Krishna always gives opportunity if we are really want to do that, even if we're just some humble nobody. And Krishna just gives opportunity, like Vaisheshika Prabhu many times mentioned, the Grihastas, they are blessed by the opportunities to preach just by hanging around in social events. Because that's what family life means. You go with colleagues and relatives and friends, and you have to go to this party and that, and birthday, and so many other things. And it's such a great opportunity. Just by being a devotee, your example is already a great preach. That's actually the most important way to preach is to show a good example and distribute prasad. In such occasions, everyone appreciates and share, speak in whatever way others can appreciate and take some instructions about Krishna. So it's for everyone, this order, and everyone can apply it in some way. And then we'll experience some attraction, something will come by the mercy of Guru and Srila Prabhupada and the Vaishnavas. And Lord Chaitanya, as Prabhupada explained, will be happily smiling, seeing our endeavors, and he will bless us. Anything else? Yes, Prabhupada.
Thank you very much for your explanation. I just was thinking about what you said about Lord Chaitanya. He ordered everybody to share his mercy and preach. And this four principles of ISKCON is preaching is the essence. Yeah? So that actually the highest taste is also being found in the preaching. And once we had a reunion around 1985 with a group of Sankirtan devotees in the house of a devotee, and in the end there were a question from what was the most ecstatic time in Krishna consciousness. And everybody had the same answer. And that was when we were on Sankirtan. So when we were on Sankirtan, actually we experienced the greatest taste of this mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So in that way, like you said, preaching is the essence. And all the activities we do should actually be directed to preaching Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's glories. And then the higher taste is there. We know it, and even temple devotees and everybody, like the cooks, everybody can be like fixed that he's busy with the mission of preaching Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. So that was my realization. Thank you very much.
Thank you also. Hare Krishna. Any other reflections? Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.